Alright, what is this? The most controversial Vocaloid. What did she do? Did you say slur?
So Vocaloids, they seem to have got a lot more attention this past decade, with the main source of said attention mainly coming from the most popular Vocaloid. Yes, believe it or not, there are other Vocaloids, like a lot, and there used to be more, but some of them have actually become lost media due to the fact they aren't supported anymore, so they've kind of been left to die or experience something similar to the singular Hexbug fan that still exists, where they are basically the only one keeping the memory of said product alive even after it's been forgotten and even renamed. But as I was saying, people mostly associate the name Vocaloid with a singular blue-haired, leek-wielding cultural icon, recently divorced clanker, Hatsune Miku. Oh, as she's
I will not stand for this Hatsune Miku slander. She's more than that!
Most commonly known, the Fortnite character that rode on the back of Godzilla to fight a giant squid man with the support of the Avengers, Squid Game characters, Invincible cast, and the Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Dude, Fortnite's lost the fucking plot, I'm not gonna lie.
Honestly, at this point, I would not blame you if you're starting to suspect you're having a schizophrenic episode, experiencing a delusion where there is a timeline where this does actually exist, but here we are. But Hatsune Miku is definitely the most recognizable Vocaloid, with almost 3.5 million listeners a month. She even has her own concerts, which...
By the way, to put it into perspective, that's like mainstream status. I think if you get over 100K, that's insane. Having over 1 million is like, you're basically mainstream at that point.
I must say are a lot more impressive than that one VTuber concert I saw. She's had a...
He's covering his eyes and then... Oh my god, the screaming is so good. Like when he opens his eyes.
Successful legacy in media and the internet in general since her conception in 2007. And some of you that have probably started developing crow's feet may even remember when every Nightcore song back in the day would always have a picture of Miku present for some reason. And I'll say...
And every Nightcore included like Hatsune Miku almost every single one. I remember playing Osu back in like 2013 and Hatsune Miku was in a lot of them.
Again, if you remember this image and the song
that
goes along with it, you are in fact considered old now. And it's time to get that 30-year mortgage with outrageous interest rates that you'll never pay off, buddy. And you might not know this, but especially if you are old, you may have already listened to Miku and her voice before without knowing. Because if you've ever seen the very old meme Nyan...
Bro, there's people out there who have never heard the Nyan Cat song.
Miku was behind the original version of the song used.
Yep.
But as said, Vocaloids have been a thing for a while now, and mainly got popular due to the introduction of Hatsune Miku and the music that followed. However, with all that said, what is a Vocaloid? Well, to keep it brief, Vocaloids are the product of the Vocaloid software created by Yamaha Corporation, who also make things like
motorcycles and pianos. My parents almost bought a Yamaha piano.
Bikes and ATVs, but the software allows someone to make music by typing the lyrics of a song and using voice banks, which are samples of human vocals, that can be manipulated in a way to provide a voice.
People will fucking hate AI, but then they fucking love Vocaloid. I will never understand that.
To said lyrics. That's why
like they had to sample that stuff and like take it from someone else. That's like kind of what AI does.
Time Vocaloids and their music sound sort of robotic. In fact, the voice of Hatsune Miku was sampled from Saki Fujita. And despite owning and making the software, Yamaha does not own the rights to...
It's different? No, it's not. Because AI uses samples of real people's voices. It doesn't just synthesize them out of nowhere. It's just AI before it could do it itself. It's almost the same thing.
Miku. She's actually owned by Krypton Future Media, and what makes a Vocaloid an official Vocaloid is that one, it must be created in the Vocaloid official software, although even though the company that owns Miku are no longer using it and have gone on to make their own software, Miku is still considered a Vocaloid primarily due to the license provided by Yamaha Corporation, which is another thing required so you can actually label your product as a Vocaloid. And is a lot of work and money, which is why only professional international companies like Krypton Future Media own a majority of the Vocaloids we see today, with only a select few other companies having their own Vocaloids like Shanghai Henan IT. And you also have to worry about things like designing and potentially creating your own professional voice banks, which a normal person may not have the resources for.
No, it's way too much fucking work, man. What are we talking about? It takes so many voice samples to create like someone else's voice. That's why AI got so fucking good at it.
Even if you went through that entire process and didn't get the license, your product still wouldn't be—
Paint Tool SI, dude. I used that because I didn't have the money to buy Photoshop. I pirated Paint Tool SI.
Considered a Vocaloid, but a Utiloid, which if you say a few times in succession, it sounds like a slur for Vocaloids. So Utiloids are basically the poor person's version of a Vocaloid. If you don't want to fork out an extortionate amount of money for a license for the official software, or spin the wheel and risk getting a totally free and legitimate version that only comes with a trade-off of your webcam light permanently being on, and
that's your own personal spy!
command prompt flashing you every time you start Windows, and let's not forget once again the copious amounts of funding and effort you'd need to put in just to get the Yamaha license to call it a Vocaloid. But Utiloid or Utau is like a non-official or non-canonical Vocaloid, mainly produced by the community and is usually created within the free software Utau Studio, using free or creating their own voice banks that can be put into the software directly, hence the name Utiloid, which also has been used as a label for any non-official Vocaloid like
it's basically a bootleg slur.
Even if they don't use the Utau software, but for simplicity's sake, all of them usually all come under the umbrella of Vocaloid, official or not. Now obviously there are a lot more Utiloids than there are Vocaloids, primarily due to the fact the bar to label your product a Utiloid is a lot lower than the requirements for a Vocaloid, and once again Utiloids are community made and usually all you need to create a
Queso has one. He has a Utiloid. I can't say I'm surprised. That guy sings sometimes. People probably just sampled his voice a bunch of times. Did he consent to that, or did just someone make it?
Is a visual design, software, and a voice bank. But Utiloids have existed around about just as long as Vocaloids, and some are even on the same level or just as popular as their official counterparts. With key examples being Defoco, made in 2008, Momo Momon, also made in 2008, Renri Yamin, released initially in 2014, there's also Neru, released in 2007, but they are considered a derivative, not an official Vocaloid or Utiloid, because she doesn't have her own voice bank and she was heavily based off Miku, with her nickname actually being Yellow Miku. And probably the most popular, and who this video is about, is Kasane Tetto, or just Tetto as she's usually known, who in the community is mostly respected and regarded as an official Vocaloid despite officially not being one, and currently she has a fan base that almost rivals Hatsune Miku herself. And even more recently, Tetto has become increasingly popular due to her involvement in multiple memes and shitposts.
Man, I'm gonna break my monitor, I swear!
Especially those that could be seen as controversial, to say the least, that I've been seeing on my Instagram reels.
Do you think—
No.
It was very fucking cool. Yes, I do. One of the— and I'm tired of pretending he's not.
Which altogether—
They really Vocaloided Nick Fuentes and fucking Pierce Morgan. This is a fucking insane fucking timeline. They animate out two fully grown men. That's crazy.
To Tetto having a huge effect on the Vocaloid community, even if she is still a Utiloid. But where did Tetto come from, and how did she have such an impact on the Vocaloid community and the internet as a whole? To the point where she actually has a demonic-like cult surrounding her.
Say the word of the day! Job. Why do you still not have a job?
Ah!
Go outside and get a job!
I'm sorry!
So the story of how Tetto came to be is kind of a funny one, as she was originally created in 2008 by the users of a Japanese forum page called 2channel. Around this time,
you can end the video right here. It came from 2chan. Of course it's gonna be like a fucking insane, unclean, kind of dirty version of a real Vocaloid. Of course! I didn't know this, but it didn't take a lot for me to figure this one out. Of course you're gonna have that.
Miku had just been introduced to the world
Yeah,
and
it's
was
4chan's
making
grandpa,
waves on
that's
the
where it came
internet.
from.
So the residents of the forum page 2 channel in April decided to make their own April Fool's joke, which was to make their own version of a fake Vocaloid, which led to the birth of the red-haired gremlin Tetto. They went as far as to provide an entire concept of the fake Vocaloid for the prank, with an artist by the name of Sen providing the artwork for Tetto, which bore a heavy resemblance to Miku in a way from her outfit.
Yeah, it's like an alt version. She even has the belt, too. It's an alt version. They quite literally made an alt version of Miku. Well, I mean, yeah, she has pigtails. They're short. She's red. Her thing is, like, the same. She has a tattoo here, even if it's different. Got bell. The shoes are the same. Yeah, like, it's literally the same. It's red belt Miku.
2 numbers present on her arm, but
This
with
is a
key
different uniform,
differences
a
like the
little bit. The
hairstyle
front
and
of
the
it,
colour.
yeah, I would
Soon
say.
users of the forum page would also attach both lore and details to the character,
Oh my
which was
God.
also heavily involved in the prank and resulted in Tetto officially being 31 years old, which
Wait, what does sex chimera mean? Excuse
is the
me?
youngest age for your average old school RuneScape player. She was also nor female nor male. She was instead a chimera.
I don't know
and
what that
yes,
means.
I did start that sentence by saying she, because most just refer to her as female because of her character design. But also, unlike Miku, instead of being obsessed with leeks, she was obsessed with bread, mostly baguettes. And we were very fortunate the users of 2channel decided to grant some mercy with their troll and didn't make her French.
Thank you.
French.
They also provided her personality, which was apparently a tsundere, and that she dislikes people that think her pigtails are drills. And to tie the ribbon on their April
Cute.
Fool's joke, they made a whole website dedicated to the bit that appeared like an official page announcing the debut of this new Vocaloid Tetto. The online prank did succeed. A lot of people thought there was actually going to be another Vocaloid, and some
They
even
pranked
became
him.
highly interested in this character even after they found out it was a joke. But after April Fool's, Tetto was basically abandoned, as the majority of 2channel users moved on as they had already done what they set out to accomplish and the joke was over.
Yeah.
Even though they put so much effort into it and the product of said joke was a
The
very
internet moves on very quickly. I'm not surprised.
believable and somewhat competent design. However, Tetto wouldn't just be thrown in the trash and have her story end there, because as said, some were interested in the character and refused to let Tetto just be tossed aside as a one-time joke. 13 days after April Fool's, Tetto would get her first voice bank made by a fan for the Utah software, and the voice behind it was Mayo Oyamano, who frequented the 2channel forum, and at the time was only
Girls are up 4chan!
15 years
Sorry,
old when she
2chan.
decided to volunteer as the voice of Tetto. And with the voice bank created and provided to the community, Tetto had now evolved from a joke to an official Utiloid. And soon after, the first song would be made with her voice bank called Fake Diva, which
Holy shit. 300k views 17 years ago? That's insane. For such a niche thing, too?
voice bank called Fake Diva, which used both Tetto's and Miku's voice bank to make the song. And this song saw a decent amount of attention, with each re-upload
Wow.
at least getting over 100,000 views.
That's
and within
crazy.
6 months of her release, there were hundreds of uploaded videos made about her on the site Nico Nico, which is a Japanese video sharing website like YouTube, and people began using her voice bank to create their own music or create covers of existing songs with it. In fact, Tetto received so much attention that eventually a fan-founded management group called Twin Drill was made specifically to manage the intellectual
Twin drill, even though she doesn't like having her hair called drills. How ironic.
property that
Yeah,
is Tetto.
that's a
And
very
within said
ironic
group, it
agency
included
name.
the 2channel users that provided the voice and art for her April release. She would then, in 2009,
Kawaii!
receive an update to her voice bank, upgrading the quality of her voice, where it previously sounded like this, and it was now upgraded to this. This was definitely
that's more Vocaloid-y, the second one. I don't mind the first one, but yeah, this one's more Vocaloid-y.
Bit better than the original, but this upgrade may have indirectly helped spread Tetto throughout the Western world, as Tetto was only really being noticed in Japan up to this point, and she hadn't really been introduced to any other country. But with a now updated voice bank that sounded better, a lot more people began to use her, leading to the creation of one of her more viral songs, Tetto Territory. The song was
Dude, I had no idea. Again, you encounter like internet culture almost accidentally sometimes. For example, I encountered Warcraft culture before I even knew what Warcraft was, and my brother introduced me to it. Just by happenstance because of how popular it is. This song was like on, I think one of my friends showed it to me, and it was a good map on Osu. I had no idea this was like a proper freaking Utiloid. I mean, I didn't even know what a Utiloid was. I just thought it was just some random anime girl with like a Vocaloid voice. I had literally no idea. Same with VTuber culture. Yeah, like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I saw like Kizuna AI and a couple of the really early JP VTubers, and I thought they were like internet memes before I knew what VTubers were. I think it was like the goose with, what's her face? The little dancing duck with the holo JP, one of the first ones. I forget what her fucking name is. I'm fucking stupid. Yeah, Subaru. Yes, I saw Subaru dancing with the duck, and I didn't even know that that was a VTuber. I thought it was just a cute anime girl that someone drew. Yeah.
Basically about who Tetto was, her likes, dislikes, and her ultimate goal to become a Vocaloid, and how she's going to overthrow the monopoly on Vocaloids. Along with the upbeat animation, particularly Tetto dancing, it quickly garnered a lot of attention, mostly outside of Japan. It even became somewhat of a meme back then, with people making their own version of her dance. Now at this point more people knew about Tetto, but it didn't stop there, as another fan would make the song Fukureta in 2010, which also got a lot of attention, and for some reason...
What?
Which also got a lot...
18 million views for a niched Utiloid fucking song. Holy shit, that's insane.
Of attention, and for some reason also became nostalgia bait for most people alive in the 2010s, and like its predecessor, it also found its way into internet culture
into other memes.
Gradually over the years, Tetto would continue to grow influence, and with the release of even more fan-made music and her previous success on the internet, it was almost impossible to ignore the influence Tetto was gathering. She wasn't on the same level as Miku at that time, but she was present, and this led to her in 2014 being finally officially noticed by Krypton Future Media, and they would involve her in an official Vocaloid project.
Nice.
It was just that in said project, she was kind of there in the background.
Hey, that's my shoulder.
She was added as a DLC in the game Hatsune Miku Project Diva, but she was just a playable character. She had no voice lines and her voice bank was not used at all. But at least she finally received some form of official recognition. However, past 2014, Tetto would struggle a little, as would most Vocaloids. This was known as the Great Stagnation Era, or as it's alternatively known within the community, the Dry Period. This is where Vocaloids in general no longer saw the same growth they were experiencing in previous years.
Wonder why.
It was kind of the same thing.
Is it like oversaturation, I guess? Yeah, I want to say like after 2013, I did notice like Vocaloids weren't as popular. Yeah, I would say like the best time was like between like 2009, probably up until like 2012. Even though I played a few like Vocaloid maps here and there in Osu, I still didn't really know exactly what Vocaloid was. I just knew of it.
Minecraft faced from 2014 to 2017, but this was primarily due to factors like a lot of influential Vocaloid content creators in the space going on to other adventures outside the Vocaloid community. Not only that, but they apparently saw an oversaturation problem because things looked so promising years prior. It led to the overproduction of new characters and voice banks to the point where there were so many, a lot of them just failed to get any traction. In general,
it's kind of what happened with VTubing, honestly. I do think I'm really blessed in the way that I was a pretty late VTuber. I was a fan since probably like 2021, early 2021, maybe mid 2021. I can't really put my finger on it. Yeah, I want to say around about there. And then I started saving money for a model, but it took me a while to, like, you know, get there. Because it's fucking... it costs a lot of money and investment and time and commitment to do that. Yeah, I would say VTubers, if you got in around about, like, the end of 2023, that was, like, the last ship kind of sailed kind of moment. It's honestly kind of crazy. You're a second-gen first-hire VTuber? Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like I'm a big fan, and I was a really big fan for a while because I would study a lot of people while I was saving up money for my own model. You're my first and favorite VTuber? Aw, that's very sweet of you.
It looked like Vocaloids had become a dated trend and the hype for them was over, and it would just slowly fade into obscurity. A good indication of this was with the release of a Miku song called Sand Planet, which some interpreted as a reference to the decline of Vocaloids. Tetto around this time was still around. She had a few popular song releases and even apparently a feature in a production, and was once again involved in another DLC pack in 2016, but she saw the same struggle other Vocaloids were seeing at that time.
I'm surprised they actually took friggin' Tekko, like, friggin' to the mainstream, considering all her attachment to, like, pretty edgy culture.
But despite the Vocaloid community going through a difficult time, she was officially featured in the Hatsune Miku Symphony concert in 2018 and 2019, which also celebrated the 10-year anniversary of Tetto, and she was one of the only non-Vocaloid characters present. But still, Vocaloids had seemingly hit their peak, and it was only downhill from there. And it started to look like this was just a temporary trend where they would just be discarded and forgotten by the end of it. Well, it may have been like that if the second golden age of Vocaloids didn't come about, as in late 2019 to early 2020.
That's when everybody got COVID and they had to sit at home and watch YouTube all day.
Perhaps due to the release of things like multiple Vocaloid-themed games and the rise of short-form content platforms like TikTok, the community began to pick up again.
And that's not because of that, I think it's because everybody sat at home. People underestimate, like, how fucked, like, millennials and older Gen Z were when they hit the job market and they didn't have enough time to, like, consume media. You just didn't have time for that for a little bit.
And create more Vocaloid content, with specific creators like Pino, Deco, Giga, and Maretu being popular examples. This introduced more people to both Miku and Vocaloids once again.
2019 wasn't when COVID started. Yes, it was 2019. I remember hearing about COVID in China probably like November, and by the time it was January 2020, then it was already starting. So I don't know. I think 2019 was definitely like when people were starting to freak out. COVID shutdown wasn't until 2020. Yes, 2020 January. Goddamn, listen. I already heard about it in 2019 in November, and I was like, uh-oh, this looks bad. Uh-oh.
And content started rolling out, but Tetto wouldn't share that spotlight till a bit later on, as her voice bank at this point was very old. It did receive some upgrades here and there, but overall it was quite dated compared to other voice banks and Vocaloids. She wasn't completely discarded, she was used here and there, but she was slowly being forgotten. Until in 2023, where she would receive a professional update to her voice bank, as an addition to the Synthesizer Studio, which also came with an update to her appearance, and thus Tetto once again, like in 2008 to 2010, would capture the eyes of the community, as her voice was a lot more human now and higher quality, and some people had an absolute field day with her new voice bank.
Your life is nothing. You serve a zero purpose.
I've seen this.
You should kill yourself now.
But this improvement resulted in her being heavily used with popular songs like Override and more recently Mesmerizer, which was a combination between Tetto and Miku. And
there's so many Hololive that have covered these like collabs with Hatsune Miku and Tetto. Dude, it's insane.
Reached over 180 million views, And after this, she would join Miku on stage performing the same song for the Hatsune Miku Japan live tour
So
in
cute,
2025.
dude.
Yes, Tetto was created as an April Fool's joke towards Vocaloids in 2008 and was completely community made and then somewhat discarded after the joke was over, but in the current day is now currently
serious,
somewhat on the same level as the face of Vocaloids, Hatsune Miku. She has rightfully earned the name Diva born from a hoax.
Yep.
They grow up so fast. But that is where Tetto is to this day. And as you can probably tell, the name of this video is the most controversial Vocaloid. It's probably
She came from 2chan.
something like that. I'm not very good with titles, if you couldn't tell. I mostly just pull them from my ass, all the way from the depths of my prostate.
Whoa.
But how is Tetto
knew it, he's
the
a
most
femboy.
controversial Vocaloid? Well, there's a bit of contention within the community if Tetto should be called a Vocaloid, especially considering her past and her overall conception. Some vehemently defend the point she isn't a Vocaloid as she still isn't considered official, and there has apparently been a bit of gatekeeping in the community against those that were introduced to Vocaloids through Tetto, despite her once again.
But she's literally done a collab with fucking Hatsune Miku. This is what I mean when people like have a little bit too much time on their hands and they don't understand that, like, God, there has to be like a point where you just like, you have to concede. Yeah, baby, she is a fucking Vocaloid, brother.
Not being a Vocaloid, and some treat it like she's encroaching on.
And she was in the game with Hatsune. Like, granted, she wasn't like he said in the video. She was not like a voice pack, and she didn't have any songs, but she's still in the game. They acknowledged her existence.
Miku's territory or something. But on the other
Oh my God.
side, people referred
Holy parasocialism.
to her as a Vocaloid for either simplicity or out of some sort of respect, as she was originally this one-off joke, but is now almost on par with the face of Vocaloid's Hatsune Miku, getting the Vocaloid treatment and is basically everywhere. She's constantly being acknowledged by the powerhouses of the Vocaloid industry, perhaps to the dismay of people on the opposing side. She was even recently in a McDonald's ad, and
Oh, that was her? Oh my God, I got this recommended in my fucking in my Twitter. I didn't even know. This is what I mean. Like, it penetrates mainstream media and you don't even realize it.
McDonald's ad, and it was heavily
It's so
rumored she's
cute.
going to be eventually added to Fortnite. Yes, I know, around a year ago there was
I
propaganda
bought the Miku items. I did. I bought the fucking whole set.
being sent around that she
I don't
was
even
getting
play
added to
Fortnite that
Fortnite
much,
then,
maybe
just
like
for a
once a year
majority
or
of people to
something.
eventually realise they've been baited, but that rumour is once again being circulated, which is either god tier gaslighting and they may have to create a hotline for Tetto fans if it isn't true, or she is in fact going to be added just like Miku, which will further
Yeah.
solidify her impact within the community.
Like an
Another
alt
reason apart
version?
from her just simply being called a Vocaloid is down to the community surrounding her and her recent adoption as the face of shitposting. Now there's a few communities you don't fuck with, one of them being the Uma Musume community, because if you say anything even remotely negative about one of their horse girls, they will flail you alive on top of an open fire.
Honestly, based, how dare you shit talk horses? They can't shit talk back.
Yeah, believe
I
me,
will defend
Peter learned
Umas.
the hard way. And another community is Tetto fans, as they are usually described as very deranged or gremlins. From the contraptions they've made to the sheer amount of meme posts that some think have crowded the Vocaloid community to the point where you cannot escape them, I mean, how do you think I found out about Tetto? It got to the point where it apparently overflowed out of the Vocaloid circle
Yep.
into my Instagram Reels feed. But
Which
it has
is
led to a bit of
insane.
so-called Tetto fatigue because she is all over the Vocaloid community, and some are starting to feel like she's overused. And let's not forget about the war crimes being committed with Tetto on
They fucking Agartha memes on Instagram have Tetto in it.
Instagram Reels because,
Oh my
you know,
God.
it is Instagram Reels.
They don't understand the things I said on Twitter.
But yeah, Tetto is controversial. controversial, basically down to how she came about, to how she gathered enough influence to rival the titans in the industry, and because she became so popular it led to some infighting within the community regarding her title, and if she should be the one exception to that standard for said title.
Never heard of it.
And she's also viewed as controversial due to her Gremlin fans flooding the community with endless shit posts, to the point where the average Vocaloid fan will
John Marston with Tetto! When bro doesn't even say good morning, everyone just starts slandering. No, you can't do that. John Marston would not do that.
probably see a plethora of derogatory Tetto memes on a daily basis.
Tetto word of the day. Horse racing.
Now I will say I am basically a tourist, yes, string me up on the cross and call me a degenerate. I will admit I am not that experienced in the ways of the Vocaloid, I'm quite the basic bitch. My favourite song is Echo and World is Mine. But I can see why people like Vocaloid so much and why Tetto is such a contested topic within the community and
well, she's like an alternative evil version that people can use in less nefarious ways because Hatsune Miku is owned by like a massive corporation, right? And she's like the official brand of Vocaloid, so like it's not okay for people to make jokes with her since she's kind of like a clean version. Where I honestly think that like Tetto is the anti-culture of like being edgy because you can make her edgy because she's endorsed by the corpo, but she's not the frontliner. Does that make sense? Kind of like Luigi. Yeah, Luigi has a lot of edgy jokes. I mean, you can say Mario has edgy jokes too, but like, I don't know. I feel like this is a little bit different from Mario and Luigi.
Why she's so loved. She isn't a traditional Vocaloid and had questionable origins, but that's probably the best part of Tetto. She wasn't made by a corporation, she wasn't extensively planned, she was an April Fool's joke that became one of the top characters in the industry.
I like
and from the perspective of a tourist, I'd call her a Vocaloid even if it isn't an official title. But that's basically it. This is another video topic I found through my Instagram Reels feed. I hope a hex bug crawls under your foreskin, and yeah.
What if you don't have foreskin, then what?
That's all I had to say, and bye-bye.
This guy in hex bugs and foreskin, man, he's probably done that. He probably put them in there himself. Mods, can we find this guy and like ban him? He deserves it, honestly. You just know he probably did it. That's why he said that. You don't just say that without like meaning it, you know? Like a motherfucker. Yeah, go check him out. He's a funny guy. I think the Tylenol's kicking in. I don't feel as...